June 6, 1944. The world held its breath. As the first light of dawn broke over the French coastline, the largest amphibious invasion in human history was already underway. Over 150,000 Allied troops, thousands of ships, planes, and armored vehicles had been unleashed in a daring attempt to break Hitler's grip on Western Europe. This was D-Day, a day of courage, sacrifice, and strategy. A day that marked the turning point of World War II. This is the story of Operation Overlord, the Battle of Normandy. Welcome to Time's Witness. By 1944, the war had turned. The Allies had pushed the Axis out of North Africa. Italy had fallen. On the Eastern Front, the Soviet Red Army was driving deep into Nazi-occupied territory. But Hitler's fortress Europe still stood strong in the West. Miles of bunkers, minefields, and machine gun nests lined the coast, the Atlantic Wall. To breach it, the Allies needed a bold plan. They called it Operation Overlord. General Dwight D. Eisenhower was appointed Supreme Commander of the Allied Expeditionary Force. His task, to launch the largest invasion the world had ever seen. But where? The obvious target was the narrowest point of the English Channel, Pas-de-Calais. But that's exactly what the Germans expected. So the Allies devised Operation Fortitude, an elaborate deception plan. Fake radio traffic, dummy tanks, inflatable vehicles, even a fictitious army under General Patton. The Germans took the bait. Meanwhile, the real invasion force gathered in southern England. Thousands of troops trained relentlessly, supplies piled up. The clock was ticking. Rommel, the Desert Fox, was in charge of defending the Atlantic Wall. He knew an invasion was coming. He just didn't know when or where. The invasion would span 5 beaches: Utah, Omaha, Gold, Juno, and Sword. The United States, United Kingdom, Canada, Free French Forces, and others would all take part. To support the beach landings, 3 airborne divisions would drop behind enemy lines just after midnight. The U.S. 82nd and 101st Airborne Divisions, the British 6th Airborne Division. Their missions were critical: capture bridges, cut off German reinforcements, disrupt communications. The weather threatened to derail the operation. High winds and rough seas made landing conditions dangerous. But on the evening of June 5th, Eisenhower made the call. Eisenhower, quote, "You are about to embark upon the Great Crusade. The eyes of the world are upon you." The invasion was on. In the early hours of June 6th, darkness cloaked the skies over Normandy. Thousands of paratroopers jumped into the unknown. It was chaos. Flak fire scattered the formations. Poor weather and navigation errors dropped units miles off course. Small bands of soldiers regrouped wherever they landed, often behind enemy lines, fighting isolated but determined. Despite the confusion, the airborne troops accomplished key objectives: securing bridges over the Orne River, capturing Pegasus Bridge, destroying key road junctions and communication lines. The Germans were caught off guard. Conflicting reports and paralyzed command chains delayed their response. At 6:30 a.m., the beach landings began. Utah Beach, the westernmost beach. American forces under General Roosevelt Jr. landed off course, but adapted quickly. Roosevelt Jr., quote, "We'll start the war from right here." Resistance was light. Objectives were secured. Omaha Beach, the bloodiest of the 5. Rough seas, steep cliffs, heavily fortified bunkers. American troops faced devastating machine gun fire. Casualties were staggering. But through sheer grit, leadership, and naval gunfire support, they pushed through. Gold Beach. British forces landed with support from tanks and engineers. Facing artillery and mortar fire, they advanced steadily inland, capturing several villages. Juno Beach. Canadian troops faced underwater obstacles, mines, and strong defenses. Despite early losses, they penetrated deeper inland than any other force on D-Day. Sword Beach. British and Free French forces landed successfully. They linked up with airborne troops by afternoon, but German counterattacks, including from the 21st Panzer Division, halted their advance toward Caen. The German response was slow and disorganized. Many commanders believed Normandy was just a diversion. Hitler, who had kept control over panzer reserves, was asleep when the invasion began. Rommel was away visiting his wife for her birthday. By the time orders were given, it was too late. Allied air superiority hammered roads and reinforcements. German units struggled to reach the front. By nightfall, more than 150,000 Allied troops were ashore. Beachheads were secure. Supplies and reinforcements poured in. The liberation of France had begun. Within days, towns fell. By the end of August, Paris was free. The success of D-Day opened the Western Front. Germany was now caught in a vice. The Soviets in the east, the Allies in the west. The beginning of the end had arrived. D-Day was more than a military operation. It was a statement. A statement that tyranny would not stand, that freedom was worth fighting for. More than 4,000 Allied soldiers gave their lives on that single day. Thousands more would follow. Their sacrifice reshaped the world. Their courage lit the path to victory. This was D-Day. This was the day the tide turned. If you found this story powerful, subscribe to Time's Witness for more epic battles and turning points in history. Let us know in the comments, which moment from D-Day do you think defined the battle most? Like, share, and help keep the memory of history alive. Until next time, witness history with us.